guess what basically a slob really is a man who believes that he is better than other people. Now, many small communities just outside of New York in the suburban world are filled with these people. Of course, they would not consider themselves slobs. Darien, Westport, Princeton, they refer to the rest of the world as slobs. They really do. The people who don't appreciate a good play. And, of course, they're all sitting there wearing their wash and wear suits. And if you ask them 10 minutes after the play what the play said, they'd have no idea of this. But most of them can tell you who was in it or who wrote it. Now, that's let's say, that is the detail slob. That is the slob who is very much involved in, let's say, the mechanics of the theater. He's involved in the theater itself. Certainly not involved in anything to be said in the theater. He's not involved in any attitude or philosophy that the man has to offer. He's interested in who plays the part. And a person who is that type of slob, who believes that if he believes in the right kind of actor, he is a good theater goer. And so if he likes Anne Bancroft and does not like Doris Day, the assumption being that he has more insight. You see, and more insight. If you say to him, well, it's a terrible thing to think about, but Cocteau wrote a Doris Day movie, he wouldn't know what to say. If Cocteau did, and it is conceivable that Cocteau would have had he been given the chance. I've known a couple of people who knew Cocteau. But the facts of the matter are we like to that kind of slob will drift towards, and he is a great name dropper. He is a name dropper of writers, among other things. He believes in reputations, and this is a slightly higher type of slob. That if the New York Times, he is totally reads the Times book review section from back to front, and whatever that section has to say is somehow a kind of gospel. It is a kind of absolute, unimmutable gospel. Now, he always believes in the right things. He is always almost aggressively liberal, but not too aggressive. He's aggressive in a kind of second-hand, abstract way. He believes in good things, like people shouldn't tar and feather each other. In Birmingham, he says. He's very angry about southern politicians who make speeches. And yet, on the other hand, while he is at his political meeting, he would not like to hear, say, for example, let's say Robert Welch could not come and give a speech at his liberal political gathering. Oh, absolutely not. In fact, one of my friends here the other day, was a funny thing. He was a very, very liberal young guy who was in one of these Darien or Westport groups and so on, and he's a member of the Young, Hard-Hitting Political Thinkers Club out there. And he came to Barry Farber and said, Barry, we'd like to have, it's a young, hard-hitting, liberal, fantastically dynamic group. Now, most of us are what we call the young progressive Republicans. He says, we're interested in new ideas, and would you suggest a speaker? Well, Barry thought for a minute, and he said, yeah, let's see, who can I get? How about Malcolm X? Well, there was a brief moment of silence, and he says, well, I'll see the committee. That was the last that ever came out of that one. So most generally, the problem with the slob is that he often, even though he thinks he listens to other people, he really doesn't. He really finds it very difficult to listen to the other side. If he listens to the world, it's almost always to one side. He will read only, let's say, if he's a liberal, he will read the Reporter, he will read maybe the Village Voice, he will read the New York Post. And that's the extent of it. He refuses to, like say, if somebody came to him and says, how about reading the National Review here? He'd say, oh, that rag. And he throws it off to one side. He would not even bother to read. He would be afraid to read it, I guess. It would just make him mad. He'd have a stroke. Now, on the other hand, very few guys who read the National Review would even get within a 10-foot pole throwing distance of, let's say, the Reporter magazine. And all of them consider themselves very hip, thinking people. They really think hard and long and fast. And now, gee, I wish I had more time, because there's more to this. There's the religious side of Slavism. There is, these are all, now I shouldn't even use such a word. I hate to use such a word, but I think one of the illusions that's beginning to grow in the world, and I suppose on both sides of the Slav fence, is that there are more Slavs than ever before. This is one feeling that is evidenced by both types of Slav, that there are more than ever before. Now, I submit that the reason this is so is that there is a growing group of people in the country who do have a decent education. Now, the education may be an education in life itself. Now, you can live for 100 years and not have any life education. This is something that has to be pointed out. There are other people, however, who can live 10, 15 years in life and receive a doctorate. They can get that philosophy doctorate par excellence. They have noticed, they have observed, they have assimilated, they have reacted to, and have come to some conclusions about life based on what they have seen, not what they believed they wanted to see, or not what they believed that they saw, but literally on what they saw. And so there's a growing group, and they seem to, both sides of the Slav world, to be more than ever Slavs. And so I suspect that more and more we will be able to speak to each other less and less. And I'm not saying what group I'm in. I'm saying like all true human beings, I'm sure that if you can have 10 feet, you have 10 feet, and one is in each camp. One you kick more, one you hold more, one you know is more there. But nevertheless, no one can divorce himself from any one. Then there's the true technical Slav, who, if a person does not pronounce a word correctly, that other person is a Slav. That's if they don't put the commas in the right place, that's a terrible Slav. Of course, the man may have come out with gigantic, wonderful, fantastic ideas. Who knows what kind of speaking voice Christ had? Who knows whether he used good grammar, even for the time? Who knows? But the facts of the matter are that that's another kind of Slav who will put down the greatest, most all-encompassing ideas in the world because they weren't punctuated right, or because the capitalizing wasn't correct. And so, who knows? Yet all of us get irritated when that happens in one way or another. So where does it stop? The only point of real danger is when one group of Slavs gather in one little tight knot and proclaim themselves the super people, and they're going to clean up the whole mess. Then get your tin hat out.